In today's lesson, we're going to be making a bracket design to create layers, dimensions, and construction lines. So this is the bracket that we're going to be building. So go ahead and open up your AutoCAD software, and we're working in the 2D mode. And so what we're going to go do first is go to the tools, and let's go ahead to the drafting settings, and we just want to change some of the snap and the grid features. So go ahead and turn your snap on, and we're going to primarily be using this initially so that we can make our construction lines. All right, so it's at 1/2 inch, and then the grid snap is going to be at 1 inch. All right, and then make sure that your snaps, this is how I typically do it with the end point, midpoint, and center. All right, and then make sure on the bottom that you can turn your grid on and your snaps on. First thing we want to do is go ahead and create some layers for this project. There are layers that we are going to be using throughout. For example, we're going to be adding a title block in subsequent chapters, some sections, and so it's good to develop these layers that you can just use for each file so you don't have to do it again. So each layer is going to have a different name and setting, and this is the list that we're using here. So in order to create a new layer, if you go to the top of the menu bar, you'll see an icon, and if you hover over it, it'll say create new layer. And so hover over it, create the new layer, and then it automatically defaults into the typing mode. So we're going to go ahead and type in construction. And I'm going to go through this layer by layer, and you'll notice that some layers have gray and white, and also the types of lines. There's hidden and center lines, and there's also a line weight. And this is very typical for when you're doing drafting type projects where you certainly don't want to have all the layers being shown. This is unusual in this chapter because you are being required to show your construction lines, and so you want to make sure that layer is on. And the construction line is going to be gray, which is kind of grayed out, continuous. And then we're going to make another layer, and we're going to put the object lines. And object is typically, obviously, the object, the part, and we're going to be doing this in a little bit bolder color, which is going to be blue. And then you're going to have to change the line weight. You can do this with some cutting and pasting of some code, but we're just going to actually make it a little bit different than what the PDF shows. So it'll be at 10 millimeters here. Excuse me, 0.10. All right, so 0.6 is what I'm showing here, but we're going to change that in a little bit. All right, so all right, there we go. All right, so then we're going to go through all of these, and I'm going to make the hidden lines, and this is going to be in cyan. And cyan is obviously a different color. It's more of a light blue. And then the hidden lines, the part lines are always the thickest, so we're going to be making this a thinner line. And so you want to go ahead and load the new line if you don't have it, and that's the hidden line. And then we're going to default to the lower setting here. All right, so you can see here we're just going to be adding more lines, and I'm going to go through each one of these. And I'm following along with a PDF. So now we need to create a center line. And we're going to make this one red, and we're going to use the index chart on the bottom. And the center line is going to be the default setting. But we want to make sure that we load up the hidden line, actually. Yeah, so center line, excuse me. All right. And you can always go back and change these if you notice you did them incorrectly afterwards. All right, default. And then the next line that I'm going to do is going to be the dimension line. And this one is going to be in the magenta color. And we're just using the basic default index colors here. And this is dimension is going to be continuous in the default setting, so that's fine. And then we're going to go ahead and create the section line. And the section line is going to be in white. Now the thing is, it's actually prints black, so it is important that you select the right one. All right, because if you would just go on a color wheel and pick a white, it would actually print to a shade of white and you wouldn't see it. And that's also continuous. Now we're going to create the cutting plane lines. And this is going to be a dark gray. And so the nice thing is you can just use these for all your files moving forward, all these layers. So you don't have to create them every single time. And then the cutting plane, you're actually going to have to load up that line. All right. And then we'll change the line weight also on that. We can go back and do that. All right, and then the title block. And we're going to make this one green. I actually recommend that we make this a darker color in the future because it's hard to read it. You'll see when we actually physically print them out on the online. When you as a PDF, they're fine, but when you print them out, they can be a little challenging. And then this title block is a thicker, should be a thicker line because this is actually going to go around the entire drawing. We're not going to use it in this chapter, but we'll use it in subsequent lessons. And then the last thing we're going to do is create the viewport. And actually, the viewport's what goes around the object, but it goes with the title block. All right, viewport, and that's going to be white, and that is also continuous. So make sure that you have all these layers done. Go through them because you are going to be using these in the future here. All right, so here's the title block. And so go through them, make sure all the colors are where they should be in the line weights, and inspect everything before you move on. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Just confirm that everything is in order here. And I'm going to just open this up a little bit so you can read what's going on here. And you have completed the first lesson.